This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology. The images are for illustration purposes only. Young Emperor Halian snorted lightly. Without saying a word, his fist intent soared into the sky and instantly obliterated the sword chi. He then threw a punch, wanting to annihilate the Yi Cheng battalion. What? Yi Chengying was shocked. The other party was able to suppress him with his bare hands. Humph. Hang Yuan snorted coldly, and a question flashed in his heart at the same time. He did not see how these two people appeared, so he thought there was something strange about them. With a casual wave of his hand, a crack suddenly appeared in the sky, directly tearing apart Halian Xiaowang's fist-intent world. What? Yun Xiao and the others were taken aback, and so was Halian Xiaowang himself. Although he was only a 2-stars martial emperor, the strength of his fist intent had reached the immortal realm, and it was almost stable at the peak. Such a powerful punch could be crushed, but no one could tear it apart. However, Hang Yuan had done it. Yi Chengying immediately teleported and hid behind Hang Yuan. His face was deathly pale as he glared at Halian Xiaowang with a venomous look. At this moment, the experts of the Sea of Soul formation also made their moves and surrounded the three of them. Among them, there were 3 martial supreme powerhouses with overbearing auras. Not bad, not bad. It's my turn to be the main character. Mo Xiaochuan narrowed his eyes, and the killing intent in his body suddenly rose. He stared coldly at Hang Yuan with endless killing intent. Hang Yuan's expression was also cold, and he looked straight at him without the slightest fear. The two of them stood opposite each other in the air, and the spiritual pressure of the 5 elements spread out, making the people around them feel a burst of oppression. Yun Xiao, on the other hand, glanced worriedly at the battle between the 2 devils in the sky. Both of them were transformed from true demonic energy, and the sky was filled with demonic shadows. He could no longer tell who was who, but he felt that it was extremely tragic. This was the time to take advantage of the situation. He looked at the crowd and said, "Everyone, although I don't know what your purpose is, it can't be that you want to be slaves to these 2 devils, right? Why don't we bury the hatchet first, and after the 2 devils are done fighting and exterminate them, we'll settle our grudges." Impudent. Hang Yuan's face turned cold and he said sarcastically, "How dare you talk about eliminating the demon lord? You're really ignorant and don't know what's good for you. We cultivate demonic techniques, and the demon master is the god we serve." "Stop joking," Yun Xiao chuckled. "It's true that you cultivate demonic arts, but you are fundamentally different from the slaves of the 2 devils. Do you want to lose your mind like that?" Everyone in the Sea of Soul formation felt a chill in their hearts. A few of their companions had already fallen into bedevilment. That state indeed made them shudder, and all of them revealed a look of horror. "Don't try to sow discord," Hang Yuan suddenly shouted. "No matter what we do, we must get rid of you first." His hands moved in front of him and devil seals began to appear. It was very similar to the technique used by the great devil. Mo Xiaochuan snorted coldly. He placed his right hand on his forehead and sword chi began to spread. The battle between the 2 of them started as soon as it started. At this moment, a loud roar suddenly came from the sky. It was Di Jun's unwilling roar. Everyone was shocked and suddenly looked at the sky. They saw the demonic shadows fighting fiercely, but the strength was gradually being determined. Di Jun's injuries were too serious, and he couldn't perform the battlefield of ancient gods. The more he fought, the weaker he became. Just now, he had let out a roar because his 3rd avatar had been snatched by Di Jia. "I finally got it. I'll spare your life today, you piece of trash. Wait for my arrival." After Di Jia got the clone, he was not in the mood to continue fighting. He grabbed the clone and was about to leave. The clone's expression remained cold throughout the battle between the 2, as if the long years of suppression had caused him to be unable to completely wake up. "Bastard. Don't go." Di Jun roared, his eyes were red, and he chased after them. Di Jia smiled coldly. Suddenly, his face changed and he said in horror, What's going on? His eyes fell on the clone, only to see that the face that was exactly the same as his was extremely cold, and the corners of his mouth seemed to have a hint of a sneer. This feeling made his entire body tremble. A wave of horror rose from his heart and spread out uncontrollably. This is a Kasaya. A drop of cold sweat the size of a bean dripped down from Dijia's forehead, and he made a swallowing sound from his throat. He suddenly tore the shirt of the avatar, and his pupils suddenly widened. In the distance, Di-jun rushed over with a mad roar. He raised a breath of demonic chi and wanted to attack, but he was also attracted by Dijia's strange movements. He looked at the avatar and was also shocked. He cried out, "Empty shell?" The clone's chest was empty. Not only that, there were black patterns on the clothes that were originally covering it. They interwove together to form a chain array that was emitting a bright black light. This is the Devil Explosion Formation. Di-jun stopped in shock and his forehead was covered with cold sweat. The demonic power that was about to attack Dijia suddenly appeared in front of him and formed a layer of defense. The ancient god's battlefield was once again activated by him. Dijia's face turned even uglier and he roared, "You've been holding it in your hand for so long and you didn't realize it was fake. Are you a pig?" He roared unwillingly and threw the empty shell away. He then used his escape technique to travel 10,000 miles in an instant. However, it was too late. The moment the empty shell was smashed out, it released an intense black light. It shot out like a black moon, devouring the void. Boom, boom, boom. The demon master's empty shell finally exploded, and the whole sky turned dark in an instant. There was no light at all. Dijia and Di-jun were swallowed up in an instant, and the whole world fell into an endless black light. The people below were also completely stunned by this sudden change. For a moment, they stood there in a daze. In any case, they couldn't see a trace of light in their eyes. At this time, they couldn't even start a flame. They were all covered in black light. This dark phenomenon lasted for a full 10 minutes before the black chi in the sky gradually dissipated. There was no one in the sky, and he didn't know how the two devils were doing. "Are you dead?" Heng Yuan was the first to look shocked. Obviously, he could not accept this fact at once and was a little absent-minded. In his impression, the demon master should be invincible and indestructible. How could he have been blown up? Yes, he shouldn't be dead, but he's heavily injured. I'm guessing he's hiding somewhere. The look on Yunxiao's face was extremely serious as he swept his eyes across the sky, hoping to find something. "How did you know?" Heng Yuan was stunned. "Those slaves who were demonized by Dijia are not dead," Yunxiao said indifferently. "That proves that their master is still alive. As for the other great demon, did you see that saint artifact? If the master dies, the saint artifact will become an ownerless object, and will naturally float in the sky. There's nothing in the sky, so these two people have hidden themselves. I'm afraid their lives are in danger." Heng Yuan could not help but give Yunxiao a few more looks. He did not expect this man to be so meticulous, and the look in his eyes became extremely complicated. "I didn't expect both of them to fall into a trap," Yunxiao said with a solemn expression. "Since the avatar is a fake, where is the real one?" Everyone's hearts were moved. Suyu and the others' hearts sank. They had originally hoped that they could take advantage of the two great demons when both sides were injured. They did not expect that there was an even more troublesome figure hidden. All of a sudden, the sound of soil bags loosening came from not far away. Everyone's bodies trembled and they looked over vigilantly. At this time, no one could relax. A plant was slowly moving over, constantly cracking the soil bags. The fruit hanging on the plant was black and emitting a dark light, which made people feel cold in their hearts. However, those who had been demonized suddenly widened their eyes as if they had seen the most delicious food in the world. They roared and rushed forward. Without the presence of the great demon, these demonized people's minds were no different from normal people. However, at this moment, all of them had lost their minds and were desperately trying to grab the fruit. A demonic energy fruit? Yunxiao was taken aback. A demonic energy fruit? He had even collected one in the Divine Realm tablet. He only knew that it was extremely strange, but he didn't know what use it had. Suddenly, a crack appeared on the devil essence fruit and gradually spread. A black light shot out from it and completely opened the fruit. What shocked people was that a human figure walked out from it. That face was no different from the two devils, and he had a cold smile. A great demon? Everyone's body trembled as they retreated in shock. The great devil sneered and suddenly transformed into a demonic form that was several times taller. It opened its mouth wide and rushed over, swallowing all the demonized martial artists who were so frightened that they didn't know how to escape. They wanted to eat fruit, but they were all eaten by fruit. Everyone looked at this scene in horror, their eyes filled with fear. The demon kept chewing. After he finished eating, he glanced at Yunxiao and flew straight into the air. Standing in the sky, he suddenly cast an incantation seal, which enlarged infinitely. At this time, several black lights flew up from different places and rushed towards the demon. Everyone looked at each other and saw that they were all demon essence fruits. There were big and small fruits, and they were all quietly floating around the demon. There were a total of 7. The most shocking thing happened. The demon energy fruits started to crack one by one. People with the same appearance walked out from each fruit. However, according to the size of the fruit, the chi of the great demon was also different. The great demons that walked out of the fruits all had a cold smile on their faces. The first great demon suddenly opened his mouth wide, and the 7 people who came out later flew into his mouth, letting him devour them. After swallowing 7 people in succession, his body began to gradually change. He seemed to be in some pain as he fused the power of the 7 people. Everyone looked at this scene in a daze. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the great demon finally merged the 7 people into his body and opened his eyes. The devil's eyes flickered with anger as he roared in the sky, "Why is there one less? Where did he go?" The demon's roar reverberated in everyone's ears. They could feel the ground shaking. It wasn't just a strong roar, but it also showed his anger. Yunxiao's mouth was wide open, and his face was blank. Cold sweat oozed out of his hands. The demonic energy fruit was in his divine realm tablet, and he did not know if the demon would be able to find it. If he was discovered, could he still escape? Right now, everyone's heart was no longer thinking about how to defeat the demon, but how to save their lives. The great demon glared down and said coldly, "There's also a fruit. Have any of you seen it before?" All the people under his gaze shook their heads in horror and kept stepping back. Yunxiao shook his head with them, but his heart was sweating. The demon's expression became uglier and uglier. He said coldly, "You think I won't know if you don't tell me? The person who hid my fruit, you will drag everyone down with you. Do you have the heart to do that?" He pointed his finger down from the sky, and an expert of the Sea of Soul formation was lifted into the air. His entire body was completely restrained, and he revealed a look of horror. No matter how he struggled and screamed, it was useless. "If no one says anything, I'll start killing them one by one. Don't you care about the comfort of your little friends?" The demon looked at the martial artist coldly and clenched his fingers. The martial artist exploded in the air and turned into meat paste after letting out a scream. His gaze swept across everyone's faces, and he couldn't help but frown slightly. He said in a cold voice, "Looks like you're really a group of cold-blooded humans. When this person died just now, none of you showed any sadness, only fear. Forget it, I'll search your souls one by one." His gaze fell and began to search for a target. Everyone who was stared at by him felt a chill run down their spines. "My lord," Hang Yuan said hurriedly. "I'm the successor of the demon servant Yanxi." The demon looked at him and was stunned for a moment. He then smiled coldly, "Yanxi's successor? What's the use of having such weak strength? Yanxi is only a demon servant, I can make as many as I want. Since we have some relationship, I'll search your soul first." He raised his hand and struck down with his palm. A ball of demonic light flashed in the air and fell like a meteor across the sky, falling to the ground. Hang Yuan's face changed drastically, and with a look of horror and anger, he roared, "You're not the demon lord, Sir D." He jumped up in shock and retreated with great speed. Everyone scattered like birds and beasts with a voila. Who would dare to resist that demonic chi in the air? Finally, it landed on the ground, and it was like a thunderclap, shaking the earth and mountains. Yunxiao and the people of UNC retreated in one direction, while the people of the Sea of Soul Formation and the Fiend Slaves went in another direction. Immediately, they formed two camps. At this moment, a few more martial supremes flew into the camp. They were the ones who had surrounded the crocodile earlier. Although they were injured by the giant beast, they were not in serious danger. At this moment, the world had changed drastically. They did not dare to stay alone anymore. They gathered around to seek warmth. Among them was Xia Yunan. His eyes fell on Yunxiao, but he hesitated to speak. He was the only one here who knew that Yunxiao had taken the demonic energy fruit, but Yunxiao's mysterious strength and cold warning look made him shudder, and he did not dare to say a word. The demon looked at the ant-like crowd and laughed. Demon Lord Emperor? He no longer exists. You can call me Di. I am the demon master of this era. His laughter suddenly stopped, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a trace of ridicule. He sneered, "You finally can't take it anymore? How sad. You want to absorb and refine me with your intelligence? What a joke." Di's body suddenly rushed down into a hill, and a shocking demonic chi exploded. Then, a black shadow rushed out and fled to the horizon. Di chased after it, his hands constantly making hand seals. He immediately cast an incantation seal in the sky and imprisoned the black shadow in the distance. Bastard! Let me out! The imprisoned black shadow was Di Jun. He had wanted to escape when Di attacked, but he had not expected to be trapped in the cage. At this moment, Di Jun was like a lamp without oil. He had turned into a demon and was baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. He looked ferocious and terrifying, but everyone knew that he was an arrow at the end of its flight, and it was difficult for him to escape this disaster. Let you go? With my status, you're actually so stupid that I let you out to embarrass myself? I was just bluffing when I attacked those humans just now, Di said with a cold smile. Do you think that with my methods, if I wanted to kill them, who could escape? The purpose was just to lure you out. I didn't expect that there would be fools who fell for it. You want to absorb me? Di Jun roared angrily. I'd rather detonate my true devil essence and die together with you. Self-destruction? That's only if we have the chance. Di moved over in an instant and punched Di Jun's body, extracting his demonic essence. Di Jun's face turned pale under the powerful demonic shackles. He tried to resist, but to no avail, and his aura became weaker and weaker. On one side, Xia Yunan suddenly said, Lord Suyu, what should we do now? If Di absorbed this stupid demon, I'm afraid his strength will double, and we'll all die. Suyu's face was still pale, and he shook his head bitterly. I've already exhausted all my yuan qi. It's impossible for me to recover in a short period of time. What other methods do I have? His eyes fell on Yunxiao as he said, Little friend, do you have any ideas? Now that all of them were injured, Yunxiao and the others had become their backbone. Yunxiao's eyes flickered with determination as he said, why don't we escape now? Di hasn't finished absorbing the other party yet, so he probably won't have time to care about us. If we don't leave now, we'll be finished. But how do we break through this dense demonic cloud? Suyu nodded and said, I was thinking the same thing. I've been observing this demonic cloud since just now. It seems that nothing can be broken. Now that I've created a gap in the formation, I no longer have the strength to use it anymore. Just as everyone was worrying, a voice suddenly rang out. It was filled with bitterness as it said, you can't break through this demonic cloud. It's basically a world of its own, unless you can break through a world. Or perhaps I can help you. Who is it? Everyone was shocked and became alert. They followed the sound and saw the great demon Dijia sitting not far away, adjusting his breath. His breath was extremely weak. Devil. Everyone was shocked and drew their weapons, ready to fight. Stop. Yunshao shouted. Stop. He looked at Dijia and suddenly smiled. My lord, he said. It's an honor to come. Dijia's face was listless and he snorted weakly. Don't laugh at me, it's just the winner takes all, I've lost this time. But now, they were all in the same boat. If they did not cooperate, they would all die. Whether it's me being absorbed by that clone or you guys being killed by him, none of these are things you guys want to see, right? That's true, Yunshao nodded. Then, how can you help me break the demonic clouds? I don't have the power to help you break the demon clouds, Dijia said. You have to rely on your own power. But I know the way to break the demon clouds. As long as the demonic clouds are broken, I can escape with ease, and so can you. That's good, Yunshao said. Please tell me the way to crack it. I'm afraid we don't have much time. He looked up at the sky worriedly. Dijun's aura was getting weaker and weaker. He was afraid that he would not be able to hold on for much longer. Dijia stopped talking nonsense. He stood up and a large amount of true devil chi poured into his hand, constantly transforming into all kinds of devil seals and hitting them into the ground. Around him and in the sky, the butterfly-like demonic patterns were gorgeous. Both Yunshao and Suyu's pupils constricted as they watched with wide eyes. They had never seen such a hand that performed incantation seals, and their alchemist instincts made them watch intently without blinking. Soon, a huge circular field could be formed around Dijia, emitting demonic chi, but it was very weak. Dijia explained while setting up, this demonic barrier of mine is the same as the demonic clouds of my clone. What I need to do now is to use the Zhang to counter the chi. However, my strength is too weak, so I need you to pour your yuan power into it to succeed. Our primordial energy seems to be in conflict with your fiend energy, Yunshao said suspiciously. Isn't it? Dijia glanced at him and said indifferently, it's indeed conflicting. What I need is your elemental energy to mess up my magical barrier field, and then the production field will explode. It's not difficult to make a hole in the magic cloud. I see, Su said, then the more chaotic the power is, the better it is. Dijia nodded. That's right. Your yuan power is one of them. The power of tainted blood is another. There were 2 other martial sovereigns from the Blood God Palace who were present. Their expressions changed slightly and they nodded in agreement. I'll handle the tainted blood. A vigorous voice was heard as a beam of blood light fell from the distance and turned into the figure of the blood god. However, when his eyes fell on Yunshao, he was no longer as calm as before. However, I have a condition, and that is that this person must be given to me. Mo Xiaochuan and Haolian Xiaowang's expressions darkened at the same time. They were on high alert. They had fought against the blood god before and knew how powerful he was. If that's your condition, then you can take a break, Mo Xiaochuan sneered. The Scion's face was filled with killing intent as he coldly said, in that case, no one should leave. We'll wait here for the demon to descend. Although he had successfully expelled the devil chi from his body, his vitality had been greatly damaged. He did not want to fight Mo Xiaochuan head-on in such a complicated situation. However, he would rather everyone die than lose the blood fiends. Besides, he speculated that Yunshao still had a supreme-grade mystic artifact, which was an important reason why he could not let him go. The blood god's determined and unyielding appearance made the atmosphere tense.